here today to talk to you about America's Gold and Silver. We are 100 days into taking over management of this company and turning around what is a highly prolific and very large-scale silver asset located in the panhandle of Idaho. We're extremely excited about this operation and what we can do with it over the next several years here. We've done a lot in the first 100 days. There's a lot to talk about here. It might seem like the time frame has been longer than that, but we certainly have been busy. I'm excited to talk to you about it all today, and we'll kick off and we'll talk about some of our past successes as well and why we believe this is a compelling investment opportunity. The usual forward-looking statements and disclosures. I'll be making some forward-looking statements in today's presentation. On this slide here, we have some of the key highlights of what we've done so far. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide because we will explain all of these points over the course of the presentation. But suffice to say, what we've done in just 100 days since taking over management of the company on December 17th, 2024 is a lot. We've completed a consolidation transaction with Eric Sprott, who owned 40% of our primary mine, Galena. We now own 100% of that mine. We raised $50 million via a bought deal with Cormark Securities upon announcement of the transaction with 4 of our cornerstone shareholders from Karora Resources. We've changed the board of directors. We've replaced management. We've replaced senior leadership at the mine level. We've ordered equipment, which I'm happy to say is in Seattle today on its way to the mine site. We've begun changes underground. We've completed 2 studies on shaft hoisting. So when I talked about it being a busy first 100 days, it certainly has been. And we're very excited for the next 100 days and what we can unlock here over the next several years. So rather than reading a bunch of text, let's jump into the team first, and we'll talk about some of our past successes for those of you who are not familiar with us, and then get into the assets. So the company is led by the gentleman who is underground right now, Paul Hewitt. Myself, I'm in the lower right-hand side of this slide here as the head of corporate development. Paul Hewitt has 35 years of mining experience. He actually spent 13 years of his career doing exactly that, running a jackleg underground, which is pretty different than most CEOs. He is a miner himself and loves to be underground, obviously. Mike Doolin next to him is a long-term metallurgist, our chief operating officer. Myself, a mining engineer, went into corporate development following a career 7 years as a sell-side analyst at GMP Securities. And Warren Varga is our CFO. In terms of those of you who are not familiar with who we are as a group, we'll talk about some of the past successes that we've had and why we're applying the same recipe here at America's Gold and Silver as we did at Klondex Mines and at Karora Resources. When you take a step back and look at the history of these two companies, it follows the exact same pathway in terms of what we're doing today here at America's Gold and Silver. Klondex Mines was a single misunderstood asset called Fire Creek located in Nevada. Fast forward over the next several years, 2 mines were added, a mill was added, and that company was sold to Hecla Mining for $650 million. At Karora Resources, when we got involved in 2018, it was a single struggling asset called Beta Hunt in Western Australia that was struggling to do 20,000 ounces of gold per year. We added in 3 more mines, 2 mills, and sold that to Westgold in August of last year for $1.3 billion. What we see here today at America's Gold and Silver is very, very similar to what we saw at these previous 2 companies. We see a struggling asset that has a huge infrastructure investment already in place. We know we can fix the mining problems. We know we can fix the personnel challenges that may or may not be there. We know we can inject the right amount of capital. We've done all of those things in the first 100 days, and we're very excited about where we can take it. So watch this chart. We'll be updating this every presentation that we have at the conferences, but we're excited about where we're going to be taking this business. In terms of the first 100 days, we've got a brief summary of some of the major achievements here. A lot of those I summarized right at the beginning of this presentation. We raised $50 million debt, predominantly led by 4 cornerstone investors from that previous success that we had at Karora Resources. Investors, including Eric Sprott, made a lot of good money with us, and we're happy to back us on this next venture. As I mentioned, Eric Sprott was part of that. Eric Sprott is a key investor in America's Gold and Silver. He now owns 20% of the company. He previously owned 40% of the Galena mine. And well over a year ago, in fact, in late 2023, Eric Sprott tapped Paul on the shoulder and asked him to take a look at the Galena mine as a technical advisor for him in order to understand what was going on there, the challenges that were going on at the Galena operation. Paul Hewitt stepped in, took a look at what was going on at that underground operation, and fast forward through to today, we're now at the helm, underway with some of those changes that we developed and the strategy that we developed over the course of 2023. The reason why I mention that is it's very important for people to know, both as new investors and as investors of Karora, that we've been looking at this asset for well over a year. We didn't sell Karora in August of 2024, and then in October 2024, joined the next company. This is something we've been doing a lot of work on for Eric and ultimately for ourselves and, of course, for America's Gold and Silver shareholders, and we're well underway with that work today. Some of the other things that we've already accomplished, and we'll touch on a little bit more in detail later on, is we've ordered new equipment more for the mine. There's a fundamental shift that's happening in terms of the mining method there. We're not reinventing anything. We're just applying first principles like we do at every operation. And we've also, as I mentioned at the beginning, completed some study work on hoisting at the Galena operation as well as moving ore tons underground. When it comes to the location of the asset, for those of you not familiar with the Galena complex, it is located in the panhandle of Idaho, the Silver Valley as it's known. Mining's been going on there for well over 100 years. Mining's been going on at the Galena operation for well over 60 years. It's a long, storied mining district. It's going to be going for many, many decades to come, including Galena itself, a long history of silver mining in that district. Our second asset, which is a cash flow generating asset today, is the Coastal operations down in Mexico. Very strong and robust team down there operating an excellent operation. We'll talk about that at the end of the presentation. And it is worth mentioning the third project that's on this slide. Relief Canyon is where the company previously broke its pick. It was an operation that in 2019, the asset was purchased. The company was pivoting to become a gold producer, and unfortunately, it ran into metallurgical problems, and that's really what caused the prior management team and the previous shareholders a lot of grief at the operation. Suffice to say, and I do want to focus on this, we are not focusing on that asset. It is on care and maintenance. Our focus is 90% on Galena and Coastal, and obviously the 10% is the remainder of the cleanup of the balance sheet, which I'll touch on at the end as well. So let's step into Galena in the Silver Valley. As I mentioned, over 100 years of mining history on this page, as you see it. There's 8 head frames within 20 miles of our operations. We have 4 of them, which is fantastic, 4 shafts going underground. 60 years of mining history at Galena. One of the things I want to draw your attention to on this plan map here is the Lucky Friday operation in the lower right-hand side. That, of course, is one of Hecla's best assets, producing 5 million ounces of silver for the next 10 years and just 6 miles away from our operation. So a lot of fantastic silver operators in this area, and we'll be obviously turning around Galena and scaling that into a much bigger operation. Galena's history, 60 years of mining history, the record was achieved in 2002 when the mine, as you've seen highlighted on this page, produced over 5 million ounces of silver at over 700 grams per ton, just under 600 tons per day. Simply put, the objective of this management team and this company is to get Galena back to its former glory. We've got a strategy in place on how we're going to be doing that. We will be putting out some guidance in the next few weeks here. We just reported our year-end financials last week. A lot going on in the first 100 days, but we'll make sure to get that guidance out. But in a nutshell, that is where our objective is at Galena, is to get that mine back to 5 million ounces per year. And we're going to be doing it at the mine, at the mill, and by repairing some of the work on the shafts. One area I do want to mention as well, we've got it annotated on the chart here. You see a serious decline in silver production over the course of the prior 8 years. A lot of that was due to silver prices. So why would silver production go down during a period of silver prices going down? Well, in fact, there are 2 ore types at Galena. There's a silver copper ore and there is a silver lead ore. During that period of time, it was the lead that was paying the bills, which is actually one of the nice flexible points about operating Galena, is that you're not just reliant on one metal. Now, we are absolutely a silver-focused company. We are scaling silver production, so we are going back into that silver copper ore where you saw some of those phenomenal grades in 2002. So that is squarely the focus, but I always think it's worthwhile explaining that part of the chart for people that are new to the story. In terms of what we're going to be doing at Galena, I mentioned a few of the things earlier on. We're doing some work on the shafts. We'll touch on that in detail later. A lot of that work is underway. We're also reevaluating the mining method. There's some things that our neighbors over at Lucky Friday are doing and some things that were done historically at Galena that we need to learn from and that we are currently applying today. We're also reevaluating the equipment. We've got some new equipment that's already been ordered. It was ordered, in fact, in November. That has arrived at Seattle, as I mentioned, this past week and is on its way to the mine over the next couple of weeks, which will be the first new equipment this mine has seen in 5+ years. We've also made some personnel changes in leadership, retraining of the personnel that's there, and we're conducting some trade-off studies on how to better move tons. My favorite slide to talk about in this deck is this long section of Galena because it really paints the whole picture. For those of you that have seen me present about Karora Resources in the past several years, particularly when we started in 2019, I always used to say all of the infrastructure was in place. We had 200 kilometers of underground development and a single decline. We took that from 10,000 tons per month up to 120,000 tons per month by the time we sold it to Westgold with adding only a single decline. Here at Galena, we are already that much further ahead than we were in the early days of Karora. We have not one, but 4 separate shafts accessing a very large ore body at Galena. We have 55 miles of underground development. This is what 60 years of mining history gets you, ongoing mining history in the Silver Valley. Up on surface, we have not one, but 2 mills, a 700 ton per day mill at Galena and a 500 ton per day mill at Core. So a phenomenal amount of infrastructure that, of course, has been underutilized over the last several years as the company was focusing its capital allocation on the Relief Canyon mine and not on reinvesting into the silver mine at Galena. So what are we doing differently at Galena? In the first 100 days, we've kicked off a review of shafts. So the shafts were the bottleneck at the operation. Currently today, the number 3 shaft is where all the primary ore and waste hoisting is occurring. The prior strategy was to rehab the Galena shaft. We conducted a thorough review of that with Evan Peltier, who is in fact now our mine manager. Some of you may have heard his name before. He was the guy that sunk the shaft at Macassa. He's come to join us because he's been so excited about this opportunity. His review showed that the Galena shaft, while of course it can be rehabilitated, it was going to be about 4 times the original cost that was quoted to the company. We pivoted and we started taking a more in-depth look at number 3 shaft. Turns out that number 3 shaft has a lot of what I describe low-hanging fruit opportunities or quick wins that we can implement to get hoisting up there significantly. A few of those, and this will sound like regular things that you do at any shaft, but remember, this is an older mine that doesn't have a lot of modern technology due to the lack of investment in it. We are implementing a new braking system, larger skip size, a modern communication system. What does that do? For about $6 million, that allows your hoisting capacity to go from 48 tons per hour to 118 tons per hour. That is close to a tripling of capacity with just $6 million. So these are some of the things that you can do when you have a lot of experience in these types of operations and the changes that you can implement. And that's just one example of the things that we have underway at Galena. What else are we working on? We also have changes going on at the mine level. One of the traditional ways that mining was implemented at Galena, which allowed tonnage to get up, was long hole stoping. Nowadays, mining has only been underhand cut and fill at Galena. We are reintroducing long hole stoping at Galena. Why weren't they able to do it? The reason was predominantly equipment. Our neighbors are doing it at Lucky Friday. So we ordered 5 new pieces of equipment that will be arriving to site, as I mentioned, in the next couple weeks here. So equipment, training of personnel, adjustment of the mining method. The ore body has done it before. It will do it again. Debottlenecking of the shaft. At the mills, which haven't been fed at capacity, they're in fantastic shape. Not much that needs to be done there. But these are all the steps that we're making to get tonnage rates back up to 1,900 tons per day of this operation and get this operation back to 5 million ounces of silver per year. All work that we've done before, all part of our expertise, and all things that we're excited to execute on. So stay tuned over the course of the next couple of years as we execute on the strategy, but a lot has already been done in the first 100 days. This is some of the upgrades that I talked about at the hoist there when I talked about the braking changes we're making, how we're going to get up to 118 tons per hour in terms of hoisting capacity. Another opportunity is to add it's called a Gaduza. It's a weight for the skips. So a lot of really quick wins here. You see some of the new equipment that's on site before the tariff impact, of course, that is going to be arriving on site here in the next couple of weeks. So we're excited to get that into the mine. In terms of depth, one of the common questions that we get is, well, isn't the Silver Valley very deep? Isn't it a seismically active area? There is seismicity. It's been going on for over 100 years. But the point being, and why this is such a powerful slide, is it shows how much deeper the other mines that are mining similar deposits in the Silver Valley are. Seismicity is no stranger to mining there. Lucky Friday, which is again the mine that we want to emulate, is significantly deeper than us, and we will be executing a similar strategy over time. So plenty of depth left to go. See, I'm running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to quickly move through Cosalá and then talk about some of the market changes and why this is a compelling investment. Cosalá is the cash flow generation engine of this company over the next several years. It's going to produce 2.5 million silver equivalent ounces over the next 7 years, and then we'll add to the mine life after that. Significant free cash flow generation that allows us to fund a lot of the activities at Galena. In terms of the silver landscape, for those of you that are silver investors, it is a very small investable silver universe. I used to be a research analyst myself, and I always marveled at how few primary silver miners there are. We are one of the select few, and we now have the second highest exposure to silver prices in that investable universe. Obviously very attractive if you're interested in the silver space. When it comes to valuation, we've all seen these slides. Look, the stock has done very well off our 40-cent financing. We're up at 75 cents with an outstanding shareholder registry. But suffice to say, there is a lot of room left to run here as we execute the strategy over the next couple of years. And if you saw us execute at Karora, it was 19 quarters consecutively in a row. That's what drove that share price return. Final slide here, I do want to touch on what we've managed to do in the first 100 days. We've had over 110 institutional meetings before arriving here at Zurich, where we've had many, many more. We've gone from 8% institutionally owned in December to 58% institutionally owned in just 100 days. That took us 2.5 years to do at Karora. Who's joined the shareholder registry? All the same names that backed us at Karora. So we've got a real institutional following, a great tightly held share structure. As management ourselves, we own 10% of the story. We're very aligned with shareholders, and we're excited to take this story forward and become one of the premier silver producers in North America.